Hello, and
Hello.
welcome to Journey Intelligence Weekly, your briefing on the latest news and trends in the world of AI. I'm Jordan Roberts here with Mark Pizzoli, and we're both with Journey Alliance, the proud sponsors of this series. Thanks again for joining us. And before we get started, we would like for this to be interactive. So please, if you have any questions or comments, or anything you'd like us to talk about, maybe in future episodes, please drop that in the comments or in the chat, and we will try to incorporate as we go along. And if at any point you're curious about how you can start using some of these things that we're talking about in AI or AI in general in your role at work, you can scan that QR code in the corner or visit the link that I've put in the comments, and it'll take you to our webpage where you can learn more about our AI training for work. Today, we're going to be talking about, to start out at least, we're going to be talking about connectors in ChatGPT. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So you're seeing the results here of a query to ChatGPT to go into Notion. But before I go into the details about that, I want to show you how to get to connectors. So when you open a chat, you'll see this plus sign. You go to use connectors, and then you select the ones that you want. I have quite a few here, and we'll be talking about some of these as we go along, but you would hit connect more to connect, whatever you need. So these are what I have connected. So for this one, I have a database in Notion of my LinkedIn content, and I connected it to ChatGPT, obviously, and I asked it to tell me what was in a specific list. It gives me each data point that is in there, and then it just asked me if I wanted to summarize all the posts in there, and it did. Like, this is exactly what is in there. It's hitting all of the data points in here, and it's telling me the structure. So if I were trying to review, for me, it's content. That's a huge data set that I would be reviewing. I don't have to go in to Notion and look over each and every one. I can use ChatGPT and do my brainstorming, my review, whatever I need right here in ChatGPT. I am actually super impressed about this one. I discovered it while we were preparing for this, and I'm really excited to go a little deeper on it. But anyway, whatever you would use Notion for, whatever kind of data, it can access it pretty easily.
That's pretty cool. So I'm not personally, I'm not really familiar with Notion. So Notion's got what, like, I know it's a web app, but like, is it? I know it's a little bit of everything, right? It's a task app.
It'd be easier to say what Notion can't do,
It
to be
would be
honest.
easier to say what Notion can't do. Well, then it makes a very powerful back end to access your information and query it, right? So I think that's really
Yeah, yeah. So that one was really cool. So I tried out a couple of the other ones. I asked it, so you can connect with SharePoint. And I have a document that I use to help us keep these topics organized. The secret is out. So I asked ChatGPT to tell me what was in the Journey Intelligence topics document. It gives me a summary of it. And I didn't have to go search it myself. I got to put it here, and this is a lot more information than I would have gotten out of SharePoint. I probably would have gone into the document, but here I don't have to do all of that. I can just ask about it and get the information that I need in one spot.
interesting. So
And
what was your prompt here? You sent it in SharePoint. Like, literally,
yes,
that's it. Just like go look for the JI topics document, and it.
Yeah, so you will need to know what the documents are called. So I did 2 tests with this. So I wanted to see what else it could do with SharePoint, and so I asked it to summarize all of the content in the folder content production. That's a pretty massive folder for us. That's everything that I've been creating over the past 3, almost 4 years now. So quite a big folder, and it was having issues saying it can't summarize it.
Right.
I changed it to deep research mode because I thought maybe that was the issue. Same answer. Then I realized that there were multiple folders within this folder, and that was the issue. So that's just something, if you're looking for to summarize things, be aware.
It was just too big of an ask. It was too many files the first time. Oh, interesting. So there's a logical maximum to, and I guess that, and we don't know this, but it likely has something to do with the context window of the model, right? So
Yes.
the model doesn't have a big enough context window for all the content, then interesting. But so when you had to do it, you had to do it on the research mode for the smaller folder, and it looks like it worked on it for about 6 minutes, and it gave you, I noticed, a very long document or a very long output.
Very long document. It's telling me everything that was in there. It even gave its own little thoughts here about images, links, and it suggests that the work is incomplete, which
amazingly, it's in the drafts folder.
Yeah, what a surprise. But yeah, like if I scroll all the way down, like this is a really comprehensive overview of.
Oh, that's kind of crazy. So I've used it similarly to do deep research, and we segment client information within different Teams folders. And I've told it to basically go and summarize everything related to a client. And it has done a pretty good job. I time scoped it. I'm like, tell me everything that's changed in the last 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it came back and told me kind of everything that had been updated in the last couple of weeks in SharePoint. So I think there's some really good use cases here in accessing SharePoint this way.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I asked it to do my schedule. Mark was able to get this one to work actually, but for me, trying out the schedule, it told me I only had 2 things on my calendar, which is not true.
Oh, but I see what you didn't. So this is an interesting thing about connectors. It's worth mentioning. You said, tell me what's on my schedule for today. But coincidentally, it doesn't actually have, like there is no calendar connector. So it's doing an end around to get to your schedule by using Teams. Oh, it is using calendar for you.
I was going to say, au contraire, Mark, it does have a calendar.
So wait, so click on the sources at the bottom, not that one, but the one just below the, yeah, click on that one. Oh.
This is interesting. It definitely was looking in the wrong spot though.
Yeah.
Like share. Yeah. So, and I had the same thought. So I was like, first of all, that's not accurate. I tried again. And then it made up ones. This is not correct. The weekly alignment is not today. Which I told it. So then I changed the sources to only be calendar, and it still didn't work. So, I mean, it's not perfect. Mark was able to get it to work by trying a different source, I think. I think it was Teams that you were able to, Mark.
I did. I used Teams. I used Teams, and I basically said, I don't know what I said. But I asked it for, I've done it before where I've asked it for meeting summaries. And candidly, when you use Teams, it gives you access to all the recordings that are in Copilot if you record your meetings with Copilot. So you can actually, you get access to quite a bit of information if you have all your meeting transcripts in there as well. So
I can't do that though, because I don't have Copilot.
That's correct.
Rats.
You just, you don't have to make a good case for why you need Copilot. Like you just don't happen to have, you've never asked for Copilot, so you don't have it.
Well, I've never needed it until this very moment.
Till right now?
Till right this second, because that is actually so handy to not have to load in a transcript. And this is what people I think are really looking for. When I've talked to people about AI, they're like, I want to know how I can make it my assistant. This is the move towards that, these connectors.
Yep.
But I mean, having to have Copilot so that you don't have to load in a transcript. Transcript is right here. You can say, use Teams, reference this meeting.
And I think that's where Microsoft really has a huge advantage here is the fact that they already, if you're a Microsoft user Microsoft, I should say 365 user, they already have access to your content repository, your personal kind of media repository, document repository. And that provides an amount of information that's really compelling to give AI access to, right? So, and I imagine in the future, AI will start to organize that. Like, so when you start to think about how it might, as opposed to just throwing all those documents into your context every time you query, imagine if it pre-processes all of them so that they're, I won't get into what a RAG is, but so that they're in a retrieval or some type of retrieval system, so you can ask questions and find the right documents that have answers, but also maybe they're tagged, so you can say, hey, I need all of the documents related to content creation. And if it came through and like pre-tagged everything, it could query just those documents. You can overload an AI's context, and when you give it a bunch of junk you don't really need, you tend to not get a great output, and all those documents have to go into the context window. So
yeah,
something worth considering for sure. So
yeah,
let me,
I was say you had some uses.
Yeah, I worked up just a fairly not simple, but I wanted to do something more complex to kind of show you what's possible. So I popped into agent mode, the same way that Jordan was talking about. You click here, you choose agent mode. When you go into agent mode, you automatically get a connectors here that you need to go and turn on. And I turned a bunch on that I had set up already, right? I didn't need web search for this one, but web search, I give it access to our CRM, SharePoint, Teams, and there's a bunch more connectors. You can actually add your own. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a second. And then I wrote a fairly simple prompt, but in agent mode. So it's like it's basically goal seeking, right? So it should do fairly well on somewhat broad requests. And I said, please review my calendar events in Teams from today and suggest entries I should make in HubSpot. So keep in mind that I'm pointing it at different connectors intentionally, and I would encourage you to do that. Like you don't have to, but you're going to get better outputs when you are more directive with what information you want to pull from what tools, right? So it views these connectors as tools. So I basically told it to go get my calendar events from Teams. It's an end around on integrating with Outlook, right? So so it went into Teams. Teams also has your calendar events in it. And then I'm basically saying, hey, and then compare to HubSpot and what entries should I be making? And so, and it wrote, and then I added another line here, right? For obvious, it'll be obvious. Just please obfuscate client and company names as this is being used for a webinar demo, right? So simple, just add on the in here so that I don't have to worry about what might show up on the screen. And it, think about this at the end of your day, recapping your day. Like, did I get everything put in the CRM that I should have, right? And it's like, hey, in a marketing meeting at 12:04. Interestingly, I'll tell you that marketing meeting didn't happen at 12:04. So I find that kind of interesting. It happened before that.
Yeah.
You had an environmental meeting at 12:01. That did happen at 12 o'clock. I did have another meeting. Coincidentally, it wasn't a client, but it thinks it's a client. I understand why, so I'm going to forgive it. But the nice thing is, it's giving me like, hey, these, add some topics. It's not telling me. I told to obfuscate, so it's not giving a ton of details. And then I had time with a client this morning as well. So, these are pretty spot on, and so I think, you can start to see when you can use kind of agent mode. I don't know how long did this take. This took 5 minutes. You could pop it on at the end of your day, something like that, and make sure you made all the entries you needed. The more tools you give it access to, right, smartly, the better, the more things it can accomplish. So I want to kind of pop into the connectors window here and explain a little bit about this. So up at the top, these are the connectors you've enabled, right? So these are the connectors I've enabled. I'm just going to be really candid. I'm not really wowed by the Canva connector. It really just, as far as I can tell,
I'm so excited for that one, and it's
it won't really
disappointment.
No, it won't generate presentations or anything. It really just recommends templates, basically. It's based on what I can find. So Didn't do anything that I was terribly impressed with. But HubSpot, it will go and get data from from your CRM. So long as if you authenticated, it has to be data that's available to you, right? So it can't go get data that you're not allowed to see in the first place. Same with SharePoint and Teams, right? But then you've got these other connectors that are also here, depending on what your particular use case is. And if you're using Outlook or Gmail, right, you have access to both here. Jordan's got Notion. I don't have GitHub turned on. I do use GitHub a little bit, but so you've got some other document storage as well. So you've got a few options. But then where the real power is, and I'm not going to tell you too much about how to do this, but I'll tell you what it is. You have this ability to actually create your own connectors. So you click here and you're creating a connector that only you are going to use. And so if you have another application and that application offers an MCP server, and an MCP server, if you know what an API is, right, you can access applications via API. That's application interface is what that stands for. So if an MCP server, if you're going to use an API, you need to know, like when you connect to it, you need to know how to use it ahead of time. You need to know what the spec is, how it functions, how you authenticate. You need all this information to use it. Well, what they realize is AI doesn't have a way to go and get that information, not without a lot of extra pain. So you've got this concept of an MCP server. It stands for Model Context Protocol, and it is like an API into an application, except it tells the AI what its capabilities are and how to use it. So it gives it if you will, like natural language on how to use all the different functions available within the interface. And so that's how the AI knows when I say, hey, go find me this contact in HubSpot, it knows how to go and do a find contact that's how it knows what it can use that connector for. So if you have an application that has an MCP server published, you set it up and then you authenticate, right? So if I dropped in a URL here and then I authenticate, I'd probably get another pop-up to authenticate. And then once that's done, you have to trust the application. It's warning you that custom connectors are not verified by OpenAI, right? You check this off, you fill in the information, you hit create, and now you can access that information via ChatGPT. So when you think about a year or two from now, and everything you use has an MCP server, and is connected into your ChatGPT starts to really become your personal operating system, if you will, for how you can kind of get things done quickly across multiple tools. So I think there's really going to be a lot of power in this in the future.
Yeah. What kinds of do you know of an example of a kind of thing that you could connect through that?
Like HubSpot, like the way it connects to HubSpot is via HubSpot's MCP connection.
So if they didn't have it automatically, you would be able to maybe go get that yourself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now you've got OpenAI probably trying to encourage different companies to publish MCP connections so they can leverage them. So I have a different use case similar. So I also use Claude, and I have Claude connected to an MCP server that's running on my local computer. It has access to a bunch of documentation on how to configure an integration platform called N8N. So I can describe an integration I want to build, and Claude can read all the documentation for N8N and help me build the first draft of that integration. And then so it builds the first draft, asks questions, I collaborate with it, and then I can actually, because it's also connected to my N8N instance, it can also publish the workflows right from there. And then there's generally some debugging that has to happen. They're not completely perfect, but 80 to 90% of the work is already done. And now it's just it's kind of all the lower level time consuming work is done. And now it's the stuff that actually someone that knows what they're doing has to do to kind of go and refine everything and make it work the way you want it to. So it can be a huge time saver. That's a technical application of it. But it won't be long before, you know, maybe there's MCP servers for search or for news or things like that, or weather, right? And you can ask questions about the weather, and it's going to provide back information about whatever weather data you're asking. So I would say the most common use case is likely to be things that resemble databases. So CRMs, financial platforms, things where you basically are going to store information in more of a database format, because that gives you the ability to query the database with natural language.
That's super cool.
So,
Mark always brings the extra technical element.
sorry. I hope that, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not, but it's what
No, it is a good thing. I didn't know you could do all of that. Here I am excited about the Notion integration, and it turns out it can do more.
And the reality is Notion's a database. I think of Notion as a database.
Yes.
It's a database with a really good UI layer. So that's really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Well, in the last few minutes that we have here, I'm going to hit on one news story. So we're talking about all the future of AI and all these cool things that we can do with it. But an MIT report recently revealed that about 95% of AI pilots stall. So in a study based on 150 interviews, survey of 350 employees, with 300 AI deployments, the main problem is that people have like a learning gap with implementing AI. Enterprise tools don't learn or adapt to company workflows, and then people as well, they don't really learn how to use it, or they don't use it to the best of its capabilities. So like they're really just scratching the surface with what tools can do. The difference between the 95% that failed, and the 5% that didn't is clear ownership, integrations that are smooth, so the tools work together and they adapt over time. But yeah, it's kind of surprising to see that many AI pilots are failing within enterprise companies.
Yeah. So when I hear enterprise company, the first thing I think is like that. Even there's a few enterprises that are young companies, but most have been around for 20 years. When we think about Fortune 500, we think about large scale businesses, and companies that have been around for 20 years. The software systems they're running on were not really designed with the concepts that we use today. Like the data is not readily available, and maybe they don't have the architecture that's going to work as readily with AI integrations as otherwise. And I would also add that some of these companies, they're kind of forced to, like, they're not just addressing low hanging fruit. They're maybe trying to do something, for something to have an ROI at a big company, it has to save them millions, not just $100,000 or $200,000. So they're not even, one of the best ways to kind of move change forward at a business is to look for low hanging fruit, right? Where can you gain some momentum? What are the easy things you can do to gain some momentum? And they don't really have the option of doing like really easy things, if you will. So ultimately, implementing AI in an organization, especially a large organization, but I would say at any organization, is a change management challenge. It's a people challenge. And if you're approaching it as a technology only challenge, you're going to fail. If you're not figuring out how to get the people through the process of adopting the technology, then you're going to fail, plain and simple. And I can imagine if you're at a big company and they're looking to to add in, and there's, let's say you work in a call center and there's 500 people in the call center, and you hear there's an AI project, you're probably not terribly motivated to help them, right? Because at least some of the people on the floor are not motivated, right? And so I know that that's a much bigger. I read something recently. There was a fairly large number of people that admitted to willfully kind of like dragging their feet and maybe even like working against an AI project, because they were worried about their job. So
yeah,
I think people just need to treat it like you got to make sure that you factor in the people, and it's the biggest factor. The technology, we know what's capable. We know what the capabilities are. with AI, it's not quite as clear what the capabilities are, but the technology is the relatively easy part. It's getting and adopting the change for everyone. That's the part I think that needs the most consideration.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I completely understand somebody, especially in a call center type role, being afraid of an AI rollout, and that's something that can be managed. But great point there is that it's a people problem that people are getting.
It's a people problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how we approach it at Journey, right? We think about it as a people problem. We start with training, get everyone up to speed on just what's possible. Really want to just open their minds to what's possible, and then look, do they have, what is their current infrastructure look like? What are the assets they have available to them? And then start to map, like, where do they need to be to do the types of things they want to do. But again, and then we start with low hanging fruit, like no big projects, no big like we're not going to do any big infrastructure upgrades just to allow AI to work. We're going to start small so that you can see the value and you start to create some momentum and you get some buy-in from the entire team before you start to move forward. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, is there any other news stories that you had, Mark, that you think we should do?
So I'm a big Excel geek. Big. I mean, like literally, I have on the weekend maybe once competed in an Excel competition. Don't tell anyone. There's a new function being added to Excel, and new obscure functions that most of us won't use very often are added all the time. But new functions that all of us will use all the time are added very, very rarely. And I think everyone will be using this one as soon as it's available to them. It should be hitting beta users mid-August. And it's basically a function that's equals Copilot. And the inputs are a prompt and a range of cells. So you are feeding into Copilot a prompt, a range of cells, and then it does a replacement on the cell that you're in. So whatever the output from the prompt is what's going to go in the cell that you're in. I think this is really game-changing when you think about how Excel works and how usable it is. I mean, imagine I'm going to go straight to like some real-world use cases, right? You've got financial statements in Excel, and in the far right column, you've got, add an analysis of what's happening for this GL code month by month over the last 12 months. And then you hit the last 12 months as the range. And I mean, it literally can give you feedback on your financials. It can help you annotate your financials. Hey, this is trending up approximately 2.2% per month. Or, I mean, like I think there's some real possibilities here. So right now it leverages GPT-4o Mini, which is a very capable model, very fast, very capable model. I would say the only thing that's kind of a bummer is you can only make it 100 calls every 10 minutes and something like 300 calls an hour. So I think that is one of the challenges with it. But that's just because it's new and people are going to go nuts with it. So I can't tell you how excited it's pretty obvious. I'm pretty excited about it. Can't wait to see it pop up in my Excel.
I mean, maybe us regular people can start using Excel now too.
Honestly, like you could use Excel this creates a window for people to use Excel for their content creation, things like that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, here's my list of topics, and I just drag down the formula to get my output or whatever. So anyway, I could talk all day. I could run us way over, but we are at time.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us. Of course, if you're interested in learning how to use AI in your role at work, we have AI training. You can scan that QR code and it will take you to our website, or you can click the link that I've put in the comments and it'll take you to our webpage where you can learn more about that. Thank you again for joining us, and we will be back here next Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Have a great week, everyone.